Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are continuing the series that I've been doing on my YouTube channel recently, where I go in depth into what I think each team in the lottery should do with their first round draft pick. Today we are talking about the team with the 13th overall pick, as we've done each of the first 12 overall picks in videos you should really check out. And the team with the 13th overall pick is the New Orleans Pelicans. However, before we start talking about the Pelicans, I just want to remind you to leave a like and subscribe. Lots of these videos have been doing very well recently, and YouTube has told me that 92% of the people that are watching these videos are not subscribed. So just do me a favor and subscribe. It'll help you out too, because you'll be able to see all of the great NBA coverage we have here right in your sub box. But without further ado, let's talk about the New Orleans Pelicans. But before I start talking about the Pelicans, I just want to say that this is being made with the assumption that none of the top 10 guys are still on the board. That would be LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman, Anthony Edwards, Deni Avdija, Onyeka Okongwu, Killian Hayes, Tyrese Halliburton, Devin Vassell, Isaac Okoro, or Obi Toppin. I think that every other player in the draft, there's at least a chance that they could fall all the way to 13, but with those 10, I would say it's very likely that they will go in the top 12, if not even earlier. So, with those guys being off the board in this assumption, let's get into what I would do if I were the Pelicans. The Pelicans are in a pretty interesting spot. They have the core that they are building around in Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. Williamson is one of the more athletic players in the NBA. He's fantastic in the fast break, averages the most points per fast break possession in the entire league in his rookie season. And second place was Giannis Antetokounmpo. So when you're first in something with Giannis as second, you know it's probably pretty good. They also have Ingram, like I said, who is a very nice half-court scorer for them. Good shooter, can get to the rim. The playmaking could use some work, but we did see him take some strides there this past season. And he has all the tools to be a good defender, but he hasn't quite cracked that defensive potential yet. They also have Drew Holiday, who could be on the move. I would say that Drew is their best player at the moment as a combo guard who's a very good player, excellent defender, both on ball and as a team defender. One of the few players that can really make an impact blocking shots and stealing the ball from the guard position. He's a very fun player to watch. On offense, he can shoot the ball well. He's an excellent distributor of the basketball. And I think that if he is traded, he will help a contender. However, if he is on the Pelicans, he can help this team make a run at the playoffs next season. The final big piece for this team moving forward would be Lonzo Ball, who is a point guard. Came over in the Anthony Davis trade from the Lakers alongside Brandon Ingram. I'm not a big Lonzo fan because a lot of his value as a playmaker comes in the fast break, and as we saw in the bubble, once you get into a playoff, more of a playoff-like format of basketball, there's not as much fast break, so that really takes away a lot of the value that Lonzo Ball can bring to a team. So I think that finding a replacement at the point guard could be a route the Pelicans could certainly look to go in. So, with that all being said, I actually do have their first option with the 13th pick be to draft a point guard, and that point guard is Kira Lewis from Alabama. I said yesterday in my video where I talked about what the Kings should do with the 12th overall pick that it pained me to have Lewis so far down on their big board because of the overlaps he has with De'Aaron Fox. Well, with the Pelicans, no such overlaps exist, and I think that he would be a fantastic draft pick for them. I actually think that a guy like Fox or Mike Conley could be a pretty solid comparison for Lewis. He doesn't have the same size as De'Aaron Fox does, so I don't think that he'll be as effective in the half-court setting as someone getting to the rim, but I do think that on the defensive end in the transition as well as a spot-up shooter, Kira Lewis has a chance to be a very, very good player. I would at least want to take a shot at him as becoming a franchise point guard if I were the Pelicans. He's going to be on a rookie scale deal, so even if you're bringing him off the bench for Lonzo, it could still be a very nice fit. he could also overtake Lonzo as your point guard for the future if Lonzo is not extended this upcoming offseason. I think that there's a solid chance that that could happen, and I'm a big believer in Kira Lewis becoming an excellent NBA player. So if I were the Pelicans, he would be my first option with the 13th pick. My next choice would be Tyrese Maxey from Kentucky. We saw this guy have a bit of Kentuckyitis, in my opinion, where there just wasn't enough ball to go around. We saw the ball be in guys' hands like Emmanuel Quickley and Ashton Hagans oftentimes, and Tyrese didn't get the touches that he would get on maybe a regular NCAA team, maybe even an average Division I Power 5 team. So I think that Maxey is going to end up being a very, very nice player in the NBA, and I think that he might be one of the better value players here. I think that there's a chance that Maxey ends up being a top 6 to 8 guy in this draft, and if that ends up happening, you'd certainly be glad you took him at 13. He's one of the stronger guys in this draft. He's an excellent, excellent athlete. For that reason, I think he's going to be pretty good getting to the rim. He's a solid playmaker. We didn't see him have to do too much of that because he was playing in a 3-point guard lineup a lot of the time with Kentucky. And I don't view Tyrese Maxey purely as a point guard either. I think that he will be a combo guard more in the NBA. But I do think that he will have the potential to run some point guard at least. So that positional versatility could be very valuable. Due to his strength and athleticism, there's a chance he can guard 1 through 3. And that's obviously very valuable. The big question with him is kind of the jump shot, and I'm actually a huge believer in Tyrese Maxey's jump shot. If you've been watching these videos, you know that a lot of the time if I have questions about a guy's jump shot, I'm knocking them down my board because I don't really believe that guys are going to go from poor production at a skill to high production like that. So that's why I have a lot of questions about Danny Avdia and Killian Hayes and Isaac Okoro, guys like that there's questions about their jumper. So I actually am not that way with Maxey, similar to how I'm not that way with LaMelo Ball. Both of those guys are pretty solid free throw shooters. They both have I shouldn't say that, because LaMelo Ball's form is a little goofy, but Maxey is good form. It looks good coming off his hand. He shot the ball well from the free throw line, like I said. He shot the ball pretty well in high school in AAU ball. So I do think that Tyrese Maxey is going to end up being a league average shooter of the ball. And for that reason, I would be very happy with taking him with the 13th pick if I were the Pelicans. And I think that any team in this range is going to be getting a bit of a steal. I quite honestly think that he has a good shot to end up being a better player than someone like Tyrese Halliburton or Devin Vassell, and in a lot of scenarios, even guys like Isaac Okoro or Killian Hayes. So getting Maxey at 13 could be the steal of the draft. My next option would be to draft RJ Hampton, who this past season played for the New Zealand Breakers in the NBL. And he did not have a very good season whatsoever. He struggled shooting the ball. He was one of the worst players in the NBL. The defense was poor. He has a great motor and he's athletic, but there's questions about the jump shot, and I think that he is a bigger project than a lot of the other guys that you're going to see in this part of the draft. I think Lewis, Maxey, Bey, Sadiq Bey, that is one of the next guys I'm going to be talking about. But all of those guys have higher floors than RJ Hampton, and for that reason, I would probably prioritize guys like that if I were the Pelicans, because you really have your core of young stars that you're building around. But if you really like Hampton and you see the upside there and believe that he can become an above-average starter as a combo guard, he could be a guy you take a big swing at this part of the draft. And I actually think that there's a chance he could go as early as like the 8th pick to the Knicks. So he's certainly an option worth considering, but the questions about his jumper and really just overall if the athleticism can translate into being a basketball player are the questions that I have with RJ Hampton. Next option would be Sadiq Bey. All of the guys I listed so far are guards, so bringing up a wing is a bit new. But Etwan Moore is a free agent here. Uh, they have some other wings on this team, like Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, and quite honestly, there's a bit of a logjam at the wing position on this team. But I do think that they could look for another guy to come in there and be a rotation guy. And I really like Sadiq Bey. He's one of my favorite wings in this draft. Quite honestly, I would consider taking him over Okoro or Vassell. Maybe not Vassell, but definitely Okoro if I were looking for a player with a higher floor, albeit with a lower ceiling. But I think Sadiq ends up being a very solid NBA player. The athleticism isn't terrific with him, but pretty much everything else is. He shoots the ball well. He's a good distributor, very good playmaker, can end up being maybe a secondary playmaker on a team. At the very least, he's going to be like a third wing on a team, in my opinion, a very solid option off the bench. And for that reason, I think that anywhere in the late lottery could be a very nice spot for him to fall. My next option would be Aaron Nesmith from Vanderbilt. Nesmith is one of the better shooters in the draft. He has excellent shot mobility as he can shoot the ball on the run. He can shoot it off the bounce. He can shoot it on a catch and shoot. Obviously, that's the catch and shoot. But he's a terrific shooter. Shot 52% this past year at Vanderbilt. It was in a smaller sample size because he only played 15 or 16 games, and a lot of them were against bad teams. But 52% is a very high number, and you can't argue with that kind of production. So for that reason, there's a chance that Nesmith goes in the lottery. However, I have too many questions about the rest of his game to really buy into that. I think he is not going to be a very good defender. I don't think that he can do much once he gets inside of the arc. The playmaking stuff isn't good, in my opinion. Questions about the defense, like I said before. I have questions about his in-between game, between the paint and the three-point line. What is he going to do? Does he have a floater he's been working on? Not a big Nesmith fan. There's other wings I would prefer, like Sadiq Bey, like I said before, and another guy we're going to be getting to later is another guy that I like better than Aaron Nesmith, but I have him lower on the Pelicans board specifically because he's more of a 4 than a 3, and obviously they are kind of set at the 4 with that Zion guy. So, yeah, this is where Nesmith falls for me when we're talking about the Pelicans draft. Next option would be Pat Williams from Florida State. Pat is a fantastic defender. Team defender, terrific. On the ball, he can make a big impact as a defensive playmaker who can get you some steals, can get you some blocks. The question with him is on offense, where he's very raw. Didn't start a single game this year for Florida State, only averaged 9 points per game in a smaller role in the offense. And if you are taking Patrick Williams, you're aware that it's going to be a project similar to RJ Hampton. You know, he's not going to come in and be his best player right away. It's going to take some time for him to develop. And the upside is there with him. If you can develop the offense, you've got a guy who's going to be maybe a all defense level defender at his very ceiling, or at the very worst, a slightly to well above average defender. I think Patrick ends up being a very, very good role player in the NBA, but I have too many questions about the offense for me to call him much more than that. However, with the 13th pick, so a good role player could be excellent value. I just have questions about if he could ever fit with Zion, and for that reason, I wouldn't love the pick for the Pelicans. My next option would be to look to trade down. There's one more guy that I would really consider here if I were the Pelicans, and that's Trey Jones from Duke, who's a point guard, but I do think that it would be a bit of an overdraft to take Trey at 13, and you could probably trade down and get some more value while also adding Trey. At the very least, Trey Jones is going to be a solid third guard for a team who can come off the bench and play the 1 or the 2. Very good playmaker, very solid defender at the point of attack, which we've seen is a very valuable skill to have. It's where the Heat struggled a little bit in the playoffs, although it didn't hurt them. But adding a good defender at the point of attack would help any team. And while Alonzo Ball and Drew Holiday kind of cover that for the Pelicans right now, there's a chance that both of those guys could be off of this roster in upcoming years. So Trey Jones could be a very nice replacement for one of those two guys in the rotation. I think that he could grow into a franchise point guard, maybe in a Ricky Rubio vein, where you're getting good defense, good playmaking, a good shooter, just not a whole lot of on-ball creation, not good at creating his own shot. So for that reason, I think you could trade down, and I don't think that there's going to be a lot of teams looking to take him in the lower teens. So if you could trade down into the early 20s, maybe with a team like, oh, I don't know, maybe the Jazz want to move up and get somebody. Maybe it's the Nuggets want to move up and get somebody. I don't exactly know, but I think a trade down where you draft someone like Trey Jones or Malachi Flynn could be a go-to move for the Pelicans. I didn't talk about trading up because I don't really see it with the Pelicans. I think that if they do trade into the top 5 in this draft, it won't be while getting rid of the 13th pick. It'll be by trading one of their veterans like Drew Holiday. So, I mean, I guess you could package 13 plus one of your first-round picks from last year, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jackson Hayes, as well as maybe a first-round pick in the future. They have pretty much all the Lakers picks, as well as a ton of pick swaps. So that is a pretty solid thing that you could do if you have a guy you really like and you want to move up for, but unless you're moving up into like the top 5 or 6, I don't think that you're getting a significant upgrade over what you can get here at 13. So trading up isn't my favorite idea if I was the Pelicans. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think the Pelicans should do with their 13th overall pick. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you again in the next video, where we will be covering the team at the 14th pick, and that's the Boston Celtics. A very interesting video because I think that they are probably the team in the lottery that's least likely to stay put. So, thanks for watching. I hope that you all enjoyed. That's it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.